Hello everybody, my name is Mariel5514 and welcome back to another Splatoon Talk video. It's been a while since I've done a video, since I've been busy with things, but here we are. In today's video, we're going to be looking at some of our previous updates that we've been given in Splatoon 3 over the past 3 to 4 years, as of 11.0. And we're going to start back all the way to the beginning, where it all started. If you end up liking the video, consider subscribing, and let's get started as we start with patch 1.2, first major update that came out for the game. So for our notes, this update focuses on adjusting some weapons, improving several features, and fixing bugs that relate to battles. We've implemented several adjustments to curtail to a certain extent the style of play where the player stays far removed from the action and continually uses sub-weapons or special weapons. This patch prioritizes bug fixes, and other adjustments to weapons will continue in the next update. In addition, we've reduced the amount of time matchmaking takes for certain modes, reduced battle latency, and made small convenience improvements to the lobby and more. The next update will focus on new features for the season beginning in December, weapon balance changes, and changes to the Splatfest tricolor attack mode. It is scheduled to be released at the end of the current season, Nintendo. So basically, at this time, how the balanced updates work, or how the update cycle worked, was that we get an update at the beginning of the new season, and then we get one in the middle of the season. So it's like every month and a half we got a new update, possibly. However, we started seeing that change between 9.0 and 9.1 when we approached the end of the game, which we'll talk about later here. We have changes to the amiibo support from our Inkling Yellow, Octoling in Blue, and Small Fry amiibo. Basically the new Splatoon 3 amiibos. Changes to communication. Made improvements to the data transfer between players. On average, data will be transferred about 0.05 seconds more quickly than before. Users can expect to see a reduction in the time it takes from a player being dealt damage to them being defeated, the time it takes from touching a golden egg to actually picking it up, and other similar actions. These improvements cannot fully compensate for a slow or unreliable internet connection. I see why they made it in bold. Alright, now we have some patch notes here. Fizzy Bomb. Increase the time it takes for the ink to start recovering after using a Fizzy Bomb by about 0.25 seconds. So that's about 15 frames. So that's a quarter of a second. So that's a nerf of 15 frames. So it went from like 70 frames where it was at to up to 85. So yeah. So it's basically, what that means is that there's a delay before you recover your ink after using your sub. So it's now going to take, instead of 70 frames, it's going to take 85 frames before you start recovering your ink after using Fizzy Bomb, in which Fizzy Bomb used like 60 to 70% of your ink tank. Points for special changes are pretty brief. Flings a Roller gets Tent Missiles at 210, Sloshing Machine gets Booyah Bomb at 210, and Reflex get Tent Missiles at 210. Keep in mind, this was when Tent Missiles still had their missile spam from Splatoon 2. So that's why our missile weapons were getting nerfed, along with Sloshing Machine. And also, you'll start seeing some of our top tier weapons change as well. So the current top tiers in the game were basically Sloshing Machine and Dark Tetradulies. So Machine is basically getting its first nerf. But 1.2 is also the update where began the most famous and most popular meta, Crab meta. Yeah, Crab Tank? Yeah, this thing was an absolute monster, which we'll start to see later. If you watch a lot of the videos from like 2022 going into 2023, yeah, you can just see like a lot of the comps were running several Splashmatics, as well as some Sloshing Machines. And yeah, Splashmatic was starting to get appearances more and more, especially with Crab Tank being very powerful. And even after the nerfs Machine was given, people would start to run like 1 to 2 Sloshing Machines just to reassure people that it was still dominant, or it was still relevant to the meta. Alright, changes to Splatfest. Made it so that when players from each team appear during Open and Pro Splatfest battles, each team's affiliation is also displayed, making it easier to know which Splatfest team they're on. Made it possible to report fresh, hand-drawn pictures that appear in the sky above Splatsville during a Splatfest. Other changes are shown here. And, yeah, if you guys remember the game's launch, there were so many issues and bugs here. And look at this. Yeah. This is all the bug fixes here. There were so many of them, which is why 1.2 was basically the update that was just nothing but bug fixes. There were so many problems that 1.2 finally was when they were finally ironed it out. In fact, there were even issues with like certain specials here. Right here. With specials, Ultra Stamp was a buggy mess. So all these changes here are all for Ultra Stamp. Every single thing right here that I have highlighted, this is all for Ultra Stamp. Every single one. Ultra Stamp was a buggy mess upon the game's launch, and it wasn't until 1.2 that they finally made it bearable again. This Ultra Stamp was just a complete disaster. It was a mess, and they fixed it. In fact, there were other times where we started seeing other issues, but it wasn't until later updates that they would iron those issues out. So yeah, this entire update is all the bug fixes. You guys can check this out as well. Link to this update is in the description below. It's on Inkopedia, so don't forget to check that if you want to check this update out. So yeah, other fixes. Fixed an issue where ability changes due to secondary gear abilities would not be immediately reflected when changing gear in the lobby. Okay, so yeah. And then we have some unlisted changes. A quota cuttlefish used in the crater was changed in all languages. Titles for certain freshness tags were changed in English, Dutch, French, Canadian French, and Spanish. So yeah, that is all what 1.2 is all about. Just nothing but bug fixes, very little changes. And this was also one of our first, this was, I think, our first netcode change. We started getting some of them later on, but this was like the first change this was one of the first major netcode changes that Splatoon 3 was given. And yeah, that is it. That is 1.2 for you all. Stick around for the next video. If you guys like this video and you want to see more, send a comment below, as well as leave a like button and hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.